G'day and welcome to another episode 4 in fact, of the Two Jacks, featuring me, Jack the Insider, and Hong Kong Jack. G'day Jack, how are you today?
G'day, Jack. All good here, mate.
Yeah, well, when we talk about all good here, how are things going COVID-wise in Hong Kong?
Well, the biggest story at the moment with COVID in Hong Kong, well, two, I suppose. We've had a couple of cases of Omicron here, but they seem to be tracking them down, and that's because we're living in the Hermit Kingdom, the land of zero COVID. But the even better story really is that there was a birthday party, a 53rd birthday party for a political activist, I suppose you'd call him, but for the pro-Beijing party. And the great and the good turned up, and with them was someone with Omicron. So 13 government officials were sent out to Penny Bay Quarantine Centre as a result of this, to quarantine as close contacts. Now, that included the Secretary for the Home Affairs, the head of ICAC, the Police Commissioner, and the Director of Immigration for Hong Kong.
And these are not 5-star hotel accommodations we're talking about.
No, it looks like a whole bunch of containers, or what do they call them up in northwestern Australia? Dongers.
Dongers. Yeah, I've seen them. They are a genuine donger.
Yeah, and they're to say the least, they're pretty basic. I've had a couple of friends who've gone through it, and I've seen the videos of the interiors. It's about a half a star. And no Wi-Fi, and no Wi-Fi at all. And the food's gotten better. The food's now cafe food. The food comes from the airline catering service. A friend said, "Well, the good thing is it's close to the beach, and it's right next door to Disneyland. But the bad thing is you can't go and visit either of those facilities. You know,
these are the oddities of living in a zero COVID situation, but your vax rates are going up, and particularly among that elderly group that we've focused on the last few episodes.
Yeah. I think we called it the dim sum incentive last week. With Chinese New Year coming up, the government has announced that to get any sort of a group together in a restaurant, you're going to have to produce a vaccination record. And all of a sudden, the post-80s are out there lining up in numbers.
Chinese New Year is upon us,
Yeah. They should have thought of this about 6 months ago.
Perhaps bought for the Chinese New Year.
Well, or at least made it a condition to go and have dim sum, you know.
Yeah, anyway. So things are looking better. I mean, when we talk about zero COVID and just dealing with Omicron generally, the issue is you really do have to have high rates of vaccination in order for it not to go sweeping through the place and making a lot of people very sick.
Well, that's true, and particularly with the elderly.
Yeah.
The government thinks they've got this outbreak under control, and that will be a good thing. Omicron's going to break out in Hong Kong sooner or later. It's going to get through the quarantine system at some stage.
Zero COVID just kicks it down the road.
Yeah, that's right. But it would be good if we kick it down the road far enough that we get those 80 plus year olds vaccinated.
Yeah, exactly right.
Before it does break out.
Yeah. Now, in UK politics, Jack, we really did want to have a look at Boris, who's had a bit of a shocker. He's spent a long time saying that there wasn't a party, and now, well, as of the last 24 hours, there was a party, and he has apologised, prostrated himself in front of the House of Commons and the British people generally, and said, "Please forgive me."
He does do the repentant schoolboy act very well, doesn't he?
It's like he's bent over, he's dropped the strides, and he's prepared to take 6 on the arse as he would have in Eton.
Yeah. He would have dropped the striped bags, you think, and that they wear at Eton, you know.
The fairly unusual school teacher, a teacher who may have had one or two psychosexual issues, but Where do you think it's going to go for him? I mean, he does look to be in strife.
The thing about his Repentant Schoolboy Act is that he doesn't look the least bit repentant when you have a good look at it. he's the bad boy in the class who says, "Look, teacher, I'm really, really sorry," but no one present thinks he really is sorry.
He had the head bowed in the Commons yesterday. He looked like he'd committed a terrible sin, but he sought forgiveness. And so we've got a process now in place where he is subject to the assessment of the bureaucracy, specifically a very senior public servant in the UK by the name of Sue Gray. And Sue Gray is preparing a report on just exactly what happened with this party in the gardens of Number 10. And Boris has asked for everyone to wait for that report before taking any further.
Yeah, she's specifically inquiring into Boris's ethics, which is amusing in itself.
That's a big job.
It is a big job. She may not be finished before the 2050. And
the report will look like the Encyclopedia Britannica. 25 volumes.
Interestingly, though, she's a former publican, which I think is really quite cool.
Not just that, she's a former publican in Northern Ireland. So look, she's a woman of the world. She basically has been a career public servant, but briefly retired from the bureaucracy to go and set up a pub somewhere in Northern Ireland with her husband, and then came back. So we'll be waiting for her report. I mean, Boris told the opposition leader, "You must wait for the report. You must wait for a proper process." But look, Boris just seems to have a bit of Teflon about him too, and I think that's part of his character as well. So even if Gray's report is handed down and is condemnatory, he's likely to skate away, isn't he?
Oh, he'll come back into the comments and do his Repentant Schoolboy Act again, and he'll probably be okay. And with the public, they kind of know that he does this sort of stuff, and they don't seem to care. They didn't really care when he was Lord Mayor of London, which was really it's a Labor city, not a Conservative city.
Yeah,
and he got away with it all the way through there, and I expect he will. And he might be saved by the best news that's coming out of the UK at the moment, and that is the dramatic fall off in case numbers of the Omicron. I think the last figure I read was the numbers are down 33% week on week.
They're down from that's down from very high numbers, but yeah, that is a big drop. And it may well be that, this has implications for politicians everywhere. Just how quickly will the anger dissipate about lockdowns, vaccinations, all this sort of stuff, people getting ill, people unable to see families as they or family members as they die in hospitals, this sort of thing. How much of it will dissipate if Omicron just basically falls off the edge of the planet at some point in the next month or so?
Well, if we're back to kind of normal life by about Easter, then they'll assess Boris, and my guess is that they'll assess him on the whole of the virus thing, and they'll say, well, he got some things terribly wrong, but he got a couple of important things very, very right. He got the
vaccination, getting vaccines into arms as quickly as possible. They've probably got a stronger anti-vax, more virulent, if I might use that word, anti-vax group than just almost anywhere in the world. So they didn't get those really high vaccination rates, but they've been the first cab off the rank with vaccines generally, with vaccines into children's arms as well. And so, yes, he got that bit right, largely driven by the UK's advances in medical technology, I must say, too.
Yeah, but